All right, guys. So during my little bit of time, during the holidays and all that, you start watching, some videos that you didn't think you would not run across, but you didn't think you would, find much interest in. But then I started binge watching this, and this is just fucking, oh my God. It makes me scared to be a father because you cannot, there are just some things that are out of your control. And I know for one damn thing, if she ever told me she was going to go to a convention, I'd be like, nope, unless I'm right there, right by her side, because I swear to God, I just guess I never. I see, Comic Con. A buddy of mine had made a comic, and he was at Comic Con signing autographs for it. And I'm surprised this shit didn't take off. I mean, this has one of the coolest storylines, and I'm not just saying that because he was one of my best friends in high school, but he really put some thought and effort into this, and I was like, how can this not fail? You know, and the thing is, I could talk about it because he owns the copyrights to it, anyways. But if you guys are into comic books and shit like that, it's called The Enigmas, and what the premise was, and he made this before um, Monsters Inc. or Monsters came out. It was the Abominable Snowman, Area 51 Alien Gray, or just the Alien Gray, the Loch Ness Monster, and two other cryptids that teamed up to, fight off world ending disasters. And the dude can draw like he did freelance work for DC. I know he worked on Blood Rain, Batman, uh, Superman, and all they did, was send you the files, and this is what he would, told me. I don't know for sure, but they would send the files. But I would see, sometimes stop by and he's on that pad, just drawing away and all that, and then send the files back. Uh, for one of them, he just did the coloring and shading, as the art was already established, the drawings. But for a lot of the other ones, he was drawing everything and then send it off to another person who does coloring and shading. So the dude was talented beyond belief. When this released, I don't know how many he sold, but people were getting autographs from him. And I thought, cool, what a cool convention, in San Diego Comic Con. But when I realized that there were other conventions that masqueraded as, oh, this is just something that we are happy about or how we feel, blah, 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 there's always a hidden agenda, if you get what I mean. And so I want to introduce you to this guy, Turkey Tom. Has 588,000 subscribers. He has uh, messed around with a couple of different channels before, kind of finding his niche with, some of these. He's not, I mean, he's calling them what they are, but, the way YouTube's user service is, oh, you can't bully, you can't do this. So if somebody simply makes a statement that is absolutely true, but the other person, like let's say Big, I've never watched a single episode of it, and I only learned about them through him. There's this H3 Productions where this guy's like, oh, it's not fair that people are calling us out and like this or that, which is messing with our money or telling our sponsors this or that, but yet they do the same fucking thing. No repercussions on their part because there's a CEO of YouTube hanging out with them, visiting them because of their you know they have content that surpasses a lot of numbers. I didn't see what the appeal was because most of it is just talking shit about other people and a little bit of commentary, which is a lot different than reacting to channels. So this will kind of be that 50-50 mark for me. Haven't really done a commentary type of video before, but I think this is kind of be like a foray into that because this is just too fucking disgusting not to be. So without further ado, you've been warned.
My Little Pony is an instantly recognizable Hasbro franchise that's loved by millions. The brand, which now brings in hundreds of millions of dollars, dates all the way back to the 80s when its first pony toys launched, but it had a significantly different customer base back then than it does now in the internet age. The most loyal MLP fans are no longer little girls who like horses, but adult men who like horses in a very different way. It's all because, in 2010, Hasbro launched the 4th generation of this beloved franchise, called My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
My little pony, friendship is magic.
It, of course, featured plenty of merchandise aimed at young girls, but also a television show created by Lauren Faust, the wife of Craig McCracken, the creator of Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Lauren had contributed to her husband's shows in the past, but this was her first show of her own. She was skeptical at first when Hasbro reached out to her, because the show could end up being nothing more than a shallow advertisement for their products. But she took the opportunity to try making a genuinely entertaining series for children. The show would end up being an undeniable success, but probably not in the way Hasbro expected it to be. It became a pop culture phenomenon, not just among children, but grown men on 4chan of all places.
Well, I'm wearing a purple Twilight Sparkle Horn. The plushes I got at Walmart.
Who knows how they stumbled upon it? The best case scenario is that they were forced to watch the show while babysitting a younger cousin or something. But, however they came across it, what matters is they ended up really liking it. The phenomenon started on the comics and cartoons board, and it was mostly ironic, at first, anyways. My Little Pony threads would eventually make their way onto other boards, with anons posting pictures of characters like they would with anime girls. People who weren't into the show got fed up, and pony posters started being banned in February 2011. Moot, the creator of 4chan, and other 4chan mods would start promoting Brony-owned 4chan websites and banning pony posters. These bronies, a term which was coined just 2 weeks after the show first aired, fled across the internet, creating their own websites and invading others with their content. A year after all of these mass bannings, Moot would apologize and create /MLP, a board to contain all pony content. Some users thought it was a honeypot to catch and ban more bronies, but that was not the case. With this board came the creation of Global Rule 15, which states that no pony posting is allowed outside of /MLP, although it was already too late for such a measure, since pony content was now going viral across the internet. The fandom grew large enough to host conventions that brought in significant numbers of attendees. By 2013, BronyCon boasted over 8,000 people. That level of popularity continued to the very end of the show, with its last season airing in 2019. And that same year, the 11th and final BronyCon drew over 10,000 attendees.
Now, right off the bat, I don't put people down for what they want to do. You see at Comic-Con, older people, making Iron Man suits or, just some insanely cool costumes. But, they're doing this from scratch. There is a hidden agenda, and you'll see it come to fruition as more as this plays out. That is just, are you kidding me? It is not, yeah. One thing about a mask, one thing about a costume, is that one, it provides you anonymity. I said that wrong. Anonymity. And two, when you feel that costume or makeup come on, and I could only relate this to, the movies I've filmed, it like gives you this sense of, this is a character I'm supposed to play. You're hiding behind makeup, and for them, they're hiding behind these gaudy, very feminine, very silly for a 40-year-old man to be dressing up in something like this. And it doesn't stop at 40. There's 50, 60-year-olds, but I'm sure you guys kind of might know where this is going.
Twilight became an alicorn, which is a mix between a Pegasus and a unicorn, and I really felt like the season was over, that we were done. And when they confirmed that we're going to have season 4, I lost it. I was ecstatic.
I told my mom, and she's like, "What?" They're like, "I like ponies." And she's like, Okay.
But bronies are an inherently divisive species. Most people instinctively find it weird for grown men to have an interest in a show for little girls, especially with a title as unambiguously infantile as Friendship is Magic. Some people are more open-minded towards others' bizarre interests, but that tolerant attitude only goes so far. You see, bronies aren't just peculiar, but in a few cases, they're outright depraved. When the community expanded from the outskirts of 4chan into the mainstream internet, any semblance of irony, if it was ever truly there, was lost. It attracted people who were genuinely into horses, and I do mean into horses. If you scratch the slightest bit below the surface of the brony fandom, you will unearth an astonishing amount of pony pornography. There is even terminology for it. When a brony is masturbating to MLP porn, he is clopping, a reference to how equines have hooves. There is even a Wikipedia page for it, believe it or not. Not to be confused with pawing off or yiffing, which is what furries call it when they're whacking it. On a side note, I just did an MRI and found I have stage 4 brain cancer from learning about these things, so I hope this video really pays off. Even Lauren Faust herself, the show's creator, ventured onto the MLP board on occasion, and had this to say about it. I don't come often, some unsettling stuff is here, but sometimes I'll put on my armor and come over. I've seen some of the most thoughtful critiques here. You know, unsettling is pretty generous, considering there is not 1, not 2, but 5 academic studies conducted on those who are a little too into animated ponies, along with multiple journalistic articles documenting the millennial propensity to clop. Today, we'll explore just how deep this rabbit hole of degeneracy goes, the highlights, if you can call it that, of the brony fandom. Because animation content on YouTube has become so large, making videos criticizing animation YouTube has become a genre in its own right, and even I was a part of it at one point. Whether that's criticizing the animators from the Storytime community themselves, or just making fun of animation reviewers and critics like the mysterious Mr. Enter, or the now retired Digibro, currently known as YGG Studio. In a similar fashion, a fair amount of creators in the brony fandom got popular reviewing and discussing My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and other pony-related topics, and they were commonly referred to as the brony analysis community. This is where infamous creator Digibro got his start, where he, now she, was still known as Digibrony MLP.
This episode strongly supports my theory that the ponies are teenagers. You see, I've always been a little bit confused about Rainbow Dash's status as an exceptional flyer.
But she's not the topic of discussion today. The man of the hour is Zach Kays, better known online as Toon Critic Y2K, who is a creator in this scene. Zach created his YouTube channel on May 3rd, 2012, right when the brony community was skyrocketing in popularity, from a niche 4chan subculture to a full-blown fandom in its own right. Zach's content has pretty much been wiped off the face of the internet, and the story of his career isn't super well documented. The Internet Archive doesn't seem to have much either, so it's hard to find out when he got popular and which of his videos got him the most attention. From the few archives that do exist, we know that in 2014 he had garnered over 3,000 subscribers, and in 2015 he was making $170 per written review or vlog on Patreon. We also know that by 2017 he had 17,000 subscribers, but often struggled to break 1,000 views a video. Now, going by those numbers, it's evident that Zach just didn't achieve the same level of success as creators like I Love Kimpossible a Lot and Josh Scorcher. However, he was well connected with other brony creators, and apparently he was a part of a big Skype group called the Rift Cafe.
Now, please tell me, I don't, and I never have been, and I don't even think I'm open to, just because I think the age gap, but I could be wrong. There might be people out there older than me. I'm 42. I've never gotten into any type of anime, and the last cartoons I remember watching were like freaking, what were they? Oh, SpongeBob. Loved SpongeBob. I remember when I used to drink and stuff like that, me and my cousins would just start singing it off the bat just because it was freaking unique, it was funny. But besides a little hidden sexual references like Bikini Bottom, or there was tons of them. I can't remember right off the bat. But yeah, I mean, besides like little references like that, it never would propel me to like, oh, I'm gonna go dressed up like SpongeBob for, you know, Halloween, or when there's a convention that's gonna come here to Colorado, I'm gonna totally dress up like SpongeBob. Like, I'm not getting my fat ass into a SpongeBob suit at that time. And now that I've slimmed down, I'm like, well, I have no desire to dress up as anything or really praise something as much as this. So am I lost here? Am I like not seeing something with what is put out there and why this would be appealing to men? Because 10,000 people for a convention is pretty like big for something that seems so just off the wall weird. It's targeted towards children, and at that, little girls. So now you're gonna get all these sick fucks. What is their agenda? Again, I tease, but I think you guys may already know.
Which describes itself as a collaborative storyline made up by the Brony analysis community. Basically, a crowdsourced, collaborative, self-insert fanfic. We get some more details about Toon from his page on the Rift Cafe wiki, such as an illustration of his steampunk neckbeard pony Sona, and a description of his edgelord alter ego, Cartoons, which seems exactly like the kind of thing a brony would find cool. Take this excerpt from the wiki. On one fateful day, Toon chose to create Cartoons for a small joke, but during the showdown against Thunder Blight, Toon was attacked by a beam and Cartoons took a physical form. But this Cartoons was different. He was vicious and attacked people, and he took delight in every second of it. Eventually, Cartoons defeated Toon in a debate and took over his channel. He then proceeded to systematically attack other reviewers, such as Lightning Bliss and Golden Fox, in an attempt to psychologically break them. Apparently, his alter ego, Cartoons, took over his channel from time to time to terrorize others in the Brony analysis community. I gotta say, I appreciate his dedication to the LARP grind. Anyway, because of his involvement in the community and the fact he obtained minor E-fame, known in the Brony fandom as Horse Fame, really creative with that one, guys, he would get to take part in popular group projects, such as a series called TF2 Analysis. It's a strange crossover in which various creators from the community interact with each other in the world of the Valve game Team Fortress 2. But every character is a pony. Apparently, it has an ongoing story and lore, and the first episode somehow has 500,000 views.
1. I am the prettiest unicorn. 2. My mane is lustrous and fragrant and catches the wind perfectly. Therefore, I am going to trot into the forest and pick each and every one of you maggots an arrangement of flowers.
There are over 150 of these animations, with new ones being uploaded to this very day. I have quite literally zero idea what is going on in any of these, but I guess I haven't had my skull crushed by a hydraulic press of children's cartoons sufficiently enough to understand it. Despite the fact that Zack would seem to have the mind of an infant, his behavior towards others was anything but innocent. In a video by YouTuber Vita, he discusses allegations that surfaced of Zack repeatedly groping women at brony conventions and getting away with it because he had horse fame. I guess this is his version of the Trump grab him by the pussy moment, but without the they let you do it caveat.
The two most noteworthy ones I was around to witness are the time when he groped Kitty's ass at BronyCon in the vendor hall when she was standing right by her boyfriend, likely since he didn't expect her to make a scene in a public location, and when he was dating Kelly, who is asexual and has a great fear of that level of intimacy. Toon tried to coerce her into sending him naked photos anyways and planned on getting her to sleep with him at a future convention. Basically really scummy shit.
It's disturbing that being a mere micro-celebrity in a scene as inane and irrelevant as the Brony fandom can still help you get away with murder off of what little clout you have, but I digress. After these two instances were brought up by Vita, another person testified in the comments to having been groped by him. Most people don't even remember the groping allegations though, because ultimately it was small compared to the heinous nature of other of Zack's misdeeds. In 2018, over 500 screenshots surfaced, which showed Zack sexting a girl, beginning when she was just 14 years old, while he was already a whopping 24 years old, a full decade older. At the start of their interactions, he began doing roleplays with her, and in one of these abhorrent sessions, which I'll spare you the details of, he said, "It's just..." so exciting knowing you're barely legal. After many such exchanges, he whipped out some textbook grooming language to try to escalate things beyond just role-playing as each other's character, and into a personal relationship with her. Well, here's the thing. I'm not asking to be in a relationship with you. When I said go further, I mean a step further than just role-playing and teasing, because you are too young to start a relationship. However, I want to explore those other kinds of feelings. More so on the romantic side. Do you get what I'm saying? I want you to know this is all okay, and I want to help you understand all of this, but only if you want to go a little further. He said other things along these lines, continuing to acknowledge just how young she was in comparison to him, though continuously not taking it seriously in consideration, disregarding even her hesitation about it. Zach, is it weird that I'm attracted to you? Girl, like in what way, if I may ask? Zach, okay, like, attracted in the mental and emotional sense. Girl, hey, I'm flattered really. It's just that, for one thing, the 10-year difference, man, XD. And just, I think you're a really great friend. Zach, yeah, 10-year difference, XD. He then tried to arrange a way to meet with her in the real world, showing just how sick his true intentions were. Girl, also a random little thing I also realized, if you're serious about what we can get away with, if I was ever able to meet you in real life via con or any other visit, you'd technically take my first kiss in that regard. Zach, oh, how so? Girl, well, I do remember you saying that you wanted to do something like that some time ago, if it's ever possible for me to go to a con, which I'm praying for at this point, XD, and me being completely alright with it. Don't think I'd forget that kind of stuff, XD. Zach, fair enough. I think it'd be pretty interesting having you all to myself in a hotel room. Girl, I must admit that you're making me morbidly curious on what you would do if that scenario were to come. Zach, do you actually want to know? Imagine the role plays we've done. He also tried to solicit CP from her in a roundabout way by asking her to try underwear modeling. Zach, would you ever consider modeling? Girl, funny enough, you're not the first person who has said that to me, XD. Zach, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable before. Girl, you didn't? Don't worry, man. I didn't feel uncomfortable at any point. What makes you say that? Zach, about the curiosity of modeling in underwear. Girl, oh, don't worry. I know you didn't have any ill intent. I trust you like that. Unless you did have actual ill intent. Zach, of course not. I think it would be interesting to see you try that. Private, I mean. Girl, I don't know if I'll pull it off personally. I think I'll just stick with what I'm confident with wearing for now. Zach, life's all about taking chances. You'd have nothing to lose. You already have the curves. In the same conversation, he comments on her physical features, and you can probably guess the gist of what was said. But in December 2017, he supposedly realized what he was doing was wrong. After 13 months of grooming this girl, he claims he came to his senses, though it's more than likely he was exclusively worried about getting caught. Girl, oh, so you were uncomfortable with what we've been doing previously? Zach, no, I just want to take a break from it. Something didn't feel quite right. Girl, I'm curious what you mean by that, but if you don't want to tell me, I won't pry. Zach, up until recently, I thought this was just for fun, but then I realized I'm doing this with a 15-year-old. Yeah, I gave one of my friends flack for doing this exact same thing. When all of this came to light, the other bronies in the community who he had been collaborating with confronted him. In January 2018, they had a 35-minute Skype call in which he admitted to the accusations levied against him. Not only that, he claims he has done worse things than this.
We know that we have a lot of solid evidence and concrete proof that you are, or at least what you have done, is pedophilia. You have asked for photos of her in nothing but a leather jacket and panties. You have sent her pictures of your crotch only covered in boxes. You've sent her porn. You've done a lot of bad things, Zach.
There have been times where I admit I have done things that are probably worse than this. In fact, I can safely say that this is one of the worst things that I've ever done. But there have been worser.
Zach also admits to grooming another underage girl years prior to this incident, and that, in that case, the police got involved.
Wait a minute. Hello?
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Okay, what's going on here? Like, can anyone tell me what's going on?
Okay.
Yes.
So,
British.
do you want me to begin?
Yeah, you get to begin.
Okay, so Toon, we're going to preface all of this with you're in trouble. And this is going to be, a group talk so that we can discuss what we think you need to do and give you a chance to defend yourself.
These guys are a bunch of fucking hypocrites, though, at the same time. what they do is they all band together when they find out something weird is going on, when they themselves are dressing up in furry costumes as adult grown men. They confront this person who is accused of pedophilia, which obviously he has admitted and said he's done worse. They don't want to get down to the truth. They want to hear the most disturbed, fucked up shit to better their viewership, to better their audience. Because nothing has came from what these guys have done. And they're just a bunch of goddamn posers. They really cared about, the grooming of these individual, underage teenage girls. They would have done something. This, what they're doing is, he'll admit, and then they keep on going and going and going. And then they'll just be like, you're in trouble. And then they'll keep on going and going and going. Nothing comes out of it. However, the law got involved. Was probably one of them tipped off the law. And the law, did their own research. But not all of them, because some of them are really good friends. And they'll come back and say like, oh, I was just pressured into doing it and I'm sorry. Having no regard for what the fuck these sick assholes do to little girls.
Essentially, we know everything that you've been doing with Pastel over the last year, since November of 2016.
Okay.
And whether you meant to or not, or thought you could get away with it?
I wasn't what? No. Why that? First off, you guys know me. That's not the type of person that I am. That's not the type of person that I am. You've known me for years. That's not the case. I admit, yes, I've done some pretty stupid things, and yes, this is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done. But people should know me well enough to know that I don't do this kind of stuff with intention to hurt.
That's not the point.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, Zach. These people are your family. They've helped you through so much. And you took a giant shit on them.
I wasn't trying to do that.
I know.
But that's the thing.
know.
But the fact remains, Zach, that you did it, and you have, and what this all is just.
Yeah.
We're at this point we're just repeating ourselves, but you need to face the music, all right?
We've told you everything we're going to tell you, essentially. It's up to you now, really. You have 24 hours. You can go to the police, or you can do whatever the hell you want. Quite frankly, I don't care.
Despite this, it seems that no legal action was taken against Zach, unfortunately. Over the course of the Skype call, Zach didn't do much to defend himself, and admitted he was wrong, but he tried to downplay his actions by claiming he was in a bad place and pretending he regretted having groomed multiple minors, though he probably only regretted being caught.
There are no excuses. I'm not going to do much really other than say I was in a bad place and I made bad decisions. I'm really fucking sorry about all this. I got involved in the wrong type of thing. I really screwed up on that part.
Saying you're sorry isn't enough. You have to say you're really sorry. It's actually in the Constitution that if you say that and make puppy eyes and touch the tips of your indexes together, like Hinata, the cops have to let you go on the spot. It's like the secret menu, but for getting away with grooming. To close off the interaction, his now former friends gave him 24 hours to turn himself in and leave the community of his own volition.
Okay, so for the first 10-15 minutes of that, there really wasn't much as far as what I was blocking, but here's where the stories start really getting a little, well, more than a little sickening. So, here we go.
24-hour period, they would still give all the information to the police themselves as well. He didn't seem too distraught about all this, until he realized his career as professional brony web celebrity was essentially over. This is because it's widely accepted that Zach's work as Toon Critic Y2K wasn't very good, and the numbers we went over before from the few archives that exist reflects that fact. Toon's career depended on his relationships with those around him, collaborating with bigger creators, and riding on the coattails of their success. Now that they were not only disavowing him, but trying to get him arrested, we knew his stint of horse fame had met its well overdue demise. At some point in the next few days, the call would be leaked. The story would go public on the brony drama news site Horse News on the 24th of February, and the call would be leaked on the 26th. Further details would only make the situation worse, such as screenshots of Zach defending pedophilia on Skype, despite the fact that he said he wasn't trying to make excuses for what he did during the call. He wrote, "I will say this. These screen caps, if you have seen them, are not fake. I believe this whole entire story is being twisted in a way to make me look bad. Age of consent laws in the Philippines are 12 from what I was told."
I've learned that really trying to explain things doesn't really change much because people will just think it's an excuse.
Okay, so each and every state has a different law of consent. And I don't know why it's not a federal law across the board, but there is another video, and this is not giving away any type of spoilers or whatever from one of the ones that I had watched and also want to post. The age of consent in Oregon is 16, which I just find fucking odd. Does 2 years make a difference? Hell yeah, 2 years makes a difference when you're at that age and still growing. I mean, for a little girl, and a little boy at 16 years old, how many decisions do they make that are so, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? To make a decision when your immaturity level is already pretty low, and then you see, all these people liking these cartoons, you're like, oh, I want to jump in on that. And at 16 years old in Oregon, they need to switch that shit up. In my opinion, I think the age of consent should be 20. But I'd even be as far as to say 21, but I know a lot of people be like, oh no, that's too much. My girlfriend's 21 and blah, blah, blah. She's the most mature girl I ever met. Like, okay.
And I'm not really going to try to make any excuses because there is no excuse. What else am I really supposed to say here? Like,
I honestly don't know.
If the story was twisted, it sure didn't take a lot of twisting after all, considering he brought up the age of consent being 12 in the Philippines as if it justified what he did. One of the worst cases of CP ever documented came from the Philippines. How would that be a good thing? He literally said it's not pedophilia if he has Filipino boy swag. I wouldn't have been surprised if he pulled a Goodfellas and said he was a made brony, and they weren't. By the way, they recently raised the age of consent in the Philippines to 16, so what he did would still be illegal, even if he lived there, which it seems he thought would be ideal. Meanwhile, his Skype profile blatantly displays that he lives in Illinois, where the age of consent is 17. His interactions with this girl, dubbed Sally, were the main focus at first. But shortly after, another girl dubbed Abby would come out with screenshots showcasing the exact same behavior from Toon, claiming he wasn't going to creep on this girl, then launching straight into sexual roleplays. Toon's group of close friends who were working on taking him down apparently didn't even know about this other victim until her information went public. Because of how extensive his crimes were, attention was also drawn towards Toon's now former friend group, and many claimed they were responsible for letting him get away with this pattern of behavior for years. During the confrontation call, people felt they were being too nice to a pedophile whose crimes had already been confirmed. The most notable creators voicing these opinions were Lily Pete and the previously mentioned Vita.
Josh and Ninja are the ones who speak to Zach the most, and you can see two very different approaches from both of them. British Ninja is a total boss and is simply not having any of Zach's shit. While he lets Zach explain his actions, it's clear that the explanation is merely a courtesy, and he has no intention of believing him. He calmly and rationally explains to Toon exactly what's going to happen as a result of his behavior. Meanwhile, Josh is constantly apologizing, repeating how much he doesn't want to do this, and talking about how big of a bone they're trying to throw Zach in spite of all of this, and treating him with the biggest kid gloves he possibly can.
In fact, many brony content creators would release videos giving their thoughts on the situation, a good portion of them being Zach's former friends disavowing him. One of these videos was by Josh Scorcher, who is one of the main figures confronting Toon on Skype. In the video, Josh explains what happened and responds to criticisms of his handling of the controversy. He explains that they tried keeping this story silent at first for multiple reasons. One being that they didn't want Toon to know what they were up to and start preemptively building up allies to take his side. Instead, they wanted to slowly turn everyone against him.
As people shared their testimony, it came to light that Toon would likely try to find people sympathetic to him to get his side of the story and try to frame himself as a victim. We realized we had to get to everyone else first, so we kept it silent until his closest friends, associates, and colleagues knew about it. We weren't going to let him try to talk to people to smooth things over and jeopardize everything. In the end, we were successful to the point where the only people who would claim his innocence were his family.
Josh claims this was a success, as the only people close to Toon who took his side were his family, who actually called the other creators and asked them to be nice to him.
I know some people who were still physically ill when the video was leaked, and the stress caused them to get worse and to hurt more. Then, some of us were bombarded with accusations, insults, and anger when we were hurt too, and we were still healing. Several people who were on the verge of completely healing are back to square one because they're being accused of things that they aren't responsible for.
There were some other reasons too. They didn't want the victim's name to be out there and forever attached to this scandal. They also wanted to get these stories straight beforehand to make sure misinformation and gossip didn't spread, to get police reports ready, and to not interfere with a criminal investigation. Despite this, there were still concerns as, regardless of what was planned regarding Zach's criminality, it does not seem that he's facing charges. A lot of people were angry at Josh and fellow creator Dr. Wolf, specifically for talking about forgiveness regarding Toon. But Josh said it was all just a misunderstanding.
Believe it or not, I've seen nearly every video and read almost every comment disparaging me and my associates for how the situation was handled. Dr. Wolf recently put out a video concerning forgiveness.
If you shop on
it, and understandably, quite a sizable number of people got angry with it. There was a dramatic failure to communicate about what we meant when we said forgiveness, and we take full responsibility for it.
According to him, they meant it in a Christian sense.